with it being a very full data week globally, today all eyes on that employment number that's set to emerge from the US. What are your expectations in that regard?
Oh, not good. I think the market is really expecting weakness as far as non-farm payrolls are concerned, and perhaps for the employment rate to stay the same in United States. I think we started yesterday with Moody's warnings against the United States, saying that they could face a credit downgrade. Saying that default is still at very low levels, but is rising. So that has filtered right through the market, and the jitters from the earlier data we saw this week in terms of employment data out of the United States and industrial data, it all does not bode well for what is going to come out at the end of today, in our markets. And I think all players just very cautious, internationally very cautious. We saw a majority of Asian shares, or Asian markets closed down today also, in anticipation of a worse number out of the United States.
What's interesting is that over on the Asian front, the market that stood out was China, and that despite the fact that we've got more concern emerging of further tightening coming to the fore on that end. Any surprises for you there?
Yeah, I think, the Chinese market didn't do well this week, and there were some bargain hunters in there getting involved in the market before it closes, as well as they've also got a long weekend. They've got a public holiday on Monday, so some bargain hunters really wanting to get involved and get some gains there. But I think it was also kept by the possibility of further monetary policy tightening, and obviously that has rippling effects into commodities, because China is the biggest demander of commodities, and so we saw also pullback in those prices there.
Let's take a look at those commodity prices and implications for our local resources sector, because together with that decline in commodity prices that we've seen filter through, we've had that stronger rand managing to hold its ground.
Absolutely. The strong rand has really impacted badly for our local miners. We can see the resi, as you mentioned earlier, is the most badly affected sector today. So I think we will expect this to happen. If there would be a curb in demand out of China, it will worsen. The weak US dollar also does not bode well for our currency. Well, it bodes well for our currency, but not for our gold miners really, because really it has really affected their performance. And you look at the rand commodity price of that, and we don't really benefit from some of the commodity increases we've seen of late.
Let's take a look at some of those players, because BHP coming out with the news item today where miners at Australia's BHP Billiton Mitsubishi Alliance, which is the biggest exporter of metallurgical coal, voting in favour of the right to take industrial action. What have you made of that news? Has it had any bearing as yet?
It certainly has. I think Billiton was down about 2.8% yesterday, and the strike action does not will obviously have a huge effect on the production and the exports of coal that Billiton does. And I think they said that they're first warning Billiton and will only take strike action on the 10th of June. But until then, it's not quite clear what's going to happen. Unions and Billiton are still in talks, but it has certainly affected Billiton.
Implats are down quite a bit today on the platinum front. We've had that miner losing close to 2.25% so far today. To what extent has that deal between Sylvania and Aquarius Platinum come to bear on Aquarius's competitor?
I don't think it has, well, perhaps it has had a little bit of an impact, but I think the general theme as far as Implats is concerned is the Zim story, where there's nationalization of assets there. So I think players are really focusing more on that. And of course, as we mentioned earlier, the rand price has gone up quite a bit, and that of course affects commodity stocks. And so I think it's just a combination of those, a pullback in commodity prices, a strengthening in the rand, as well as the Zim story that is really impacting Implats, which is has most exposure to Zimbabwe out of the platinum stock. So it's really been a laggard in the platinum sector.
Of course, with pertaining to that Zim story, it has stood its ground for the most part, and just a couple of weeks ago saying that it is relooking that strategy. So certainly interesting to keep an eye on developments on that front. When it comes to the gainer board in Ntombenhle, there seems to be no real theme that's emerged, but one of the standout players there, Steinhoff, up 3% today.
Yes, up to, it was up 3% 1 point. I think last time I checked it was up 1.8%. But, I couldn't really find a proper story as to why it's up so much. But if you look at his performance yesterday, it was down 2.7%. So I think players just getting involved there again, trying to correct it back to 24.6 or 24 rands and 60 cents. And so I think that's just really a correction that we're seeing in the market, considering that it came off quite sharply yesterday.
Looking forward to next week, your expectations for trading activity. Do you have your eye on anything specific?
Just general markets. I think, to be a very interesting week next week. I think a lot of attention will be on the United States economic data, as well as the rating agencies and what they have to say about the economy going forward. So we're in very, very treacherous territory at the moment. And I think the only gainer really that we'll see is our currency. As I mentioned earlier, there has been some activity going on there, where there's a Walmart deal. I know that Bloomberg said that the rand is actually the strongest emerging market currency of late, and so I think there'll be a lot more action there. But also, commodities are a sector to watch. There has been quite a pullback, so we expect a recovery perhaps next week. But like I mentioned earlier, all eyes on the economic data out of the United States.